Here celebrating our successes and representing White Bear Lake area schools. We have our recognition event tonight for several teams, so this will take us a good amount of time, so we want to get started a little bit early this evening. So Board Chair Janet Newberg and Member Scott Wilson are going to hand out a couple of things. Could you give a preview of what those two things are? We've got
tell me what this is in back.
We've got a bear pen held up by Mr. Wilson, and we've got a coveted bear pen, and we've got a certificate. So those of you in the audience, that's what the students will be receiving this evening. So again, thank you all for coming tonight. This is a great turnout. So to start off, our all-state soccer players. Congratulations to the following White Bear Lake area high school soccer players who were named to the all-state soccer teams. Kayla Anderson, Claire Odemark, who's not here. Erica Townley, again Erica Townley, who's not here tonight, and Lauren Altman. All right, so if the two of you would come back and take a photo with the school board. I think we're good. Thank you. Are any parents here for the soccer players, the all-state soccer players? Okay, well, I think we should still give the parents and guardians a round of applause for supporting their students. Okay, moving on to the next team, girls cross country. One thing, we'll announce each individual, and then if we hold off on the applause until the end, we might be able to move through a little bit more quickly. And given the numbers tonight, we might need that time as our regular board meeting begins at 7. So I'll read through these without the applause in between, and then when we come back, we'll applaud all of you at the same time. So congratulations to the following students who were girls cross country section champions and competed in the state meet. So Natalie Andrus. That's what usually happens. That's okay. Maggie Blanding. Clarice Larson. Haley Miller. Josie Moore. Claire Schneider. Olivia Schwintek. Madeline Verkerke. Alexandra Weinberger. And our coaches, Mr. Gary Wilson, our boys and girls volunteer coach. Hi, Mr. Wilson. Good to see you. Oops. Shannon Grant, assistant coach. Sue Worrell, assistant coach. And Patty Percival, our Hall of Fame head coach. She not here. with her family. Okay, family commitment tonight. All right, thank you all. Come back over. How's So, parents of the girls, would parents of the girls cross-country team stand up, please, and be recognized for all of the commitments you've made through the years? Thanks for being here. All right, next up, boys cross-country. Congratulations to the following students who were boys cross-country section champions and competed in the state meet. Jace Bartz, Jacob Horvath, Isaac Mariama, Max Nelson, Sam Racine, Mike Rollinger, Trig Solberg, Logan Tantu, Ben Vanderbosch, and our coaches, Mr. Gary Wilson again. You get to shake hands one more time. Right. Sean Gritzmacher, assistant coach. David Percival, assistant coach. And Dan Kovacic, head coach. All right.
Okay. And if we can kind of scrunch again, that would be perfect. Not a shorter crowd here.
All right, parents of the boys' team members, please stand to be recognized. There's one parent. Any others? Thank you for being here. Okay. Yeah, come on up. I wanted to.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Schockenmeyer, one of the middle school principals here at Central, and I'm here tonight to introduce our middle school cheerleading team, and we want to wish them a congratulations on an awesome season, and they were named to the Minnesota Coaches Cheerleading Association state champions for the middle school division this year. So we have quite an awesome team. Yeah. Just like Dr. Kazmarchuk said, we'll go through everyone, and then we'll give them all a big round of applause at the end. Paige Altringer, Mary Anderson, Kaylee Bach, Olivia Jacob, Trisha Johnson, Mara Judd, Molly Locke, Madison Onstead, Ellen Regstad, Aubrey Ryland, and Addie Stout. Helping every good team are some great coaches. I'd like to recognize our 4 coaches that work with all levels, middle school, JV, and varsity. Ashley Humphrey, Paige Kazak, Lindsay Lockman, Kelly Rivers, and Heather Wallstrand. Let's give the middle school cheerleading team and coaches a big round of applause. Cheerleaders and coaches, we're going to come right over here and have a picture in front of the school board. Thank you.
If you don't mind. Okay, and if we can kind of just wrap it a little bit tighter here. Okay, all right. And everyone make sure you can see me. Okay, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, now move out of the way for friends. Take it one first.
Good evening, everybody. I have the privilege to recognize our junior varsity and varsity cheerleading teams. First of all, our junior varsity cheerleading team. Congratulations to the junior varsity team members who were named Minnesota Coaches Cheerleading Association state champions in the junior varsity division. First of all, Abigail Aragon, Isabel Boyer, Caitlin Corfitz, Trisha Dennis, Emily Dale, Ella Flood, Eleanor Gregory, Vanessa Hernandez Reyes, Alexander Ryland, Isabel Reyes, and Samantha Sherrick. Congratulations, girls. Now you have to come back and take a picture. Coaches, we ask that you come back as well and be part of the picture.
I can see everyone. All right, here we go. Take a few. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm gonna move out of the way for parents now.
Also, a round of applause for our parents for our junior varsity cheerleading team. Next, we have our varsity cheerleading team. Congratulations to the following varsity team members who earned the MCCA State Cheer Off First Place School Song, First Place Game Situation, and Second Place overall in the varsity divisions. Congratulations, girls. First, Amanda Allman. Paige Christensen. Alex Dahl. Julia Galloway. Kaylee Harris. Cassidy Hughes, Danica Johnson, Emma Johnston, Kelly Kaspazak, Alara Knutson, Ava Lund, Haley Malmstead, Emily Price, Grace Shirkura, Leah Robinson, Caitlin Stender, and Annika Volker. Congratulations, girls. So girls and coaches, back up for a group photo. Did I get right?
Good. All right. Here we go. I'm gonna take a few. You're ready. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Okay, I'm gonna move out of the way now for parents.
We also want to recognize the parents that are in the audience as well, too. Congratulations, parents. I will turn it over to Dr. Kazmierczak for a few closing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Bosch. So that just about concludes our recognition ceremony for this evening. Thank you all for coming. You're welcome to stay for the regular board meeting that starts at 7. It's a very long agenda, so you'd get you'd get a full evening's worth of entertainment, no doubt. We want to end, however, and I'm not coming on after this, so this is the last you're going to hear from me, because we're going to ask our cheer team to come and sing the school song, and that's going to be a really tough act to follow. So come on back up, please.
Independent School District 624. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fahey here. Kimball.
Here.
Mullen.
Here.
Newberg.
Here.
Newmaster.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Right, would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, we have before us an agenda for this evening's meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Chapman. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Newmaster. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We have an agenda. We also have before us a consent agenda, which consists of items which are routinely before the school board on a monthly basis. So we usually address these as one action item on our agenda. Included in the consent agenda every single month is a resolution to accept gifts. The school district has always been extremely blessed by having a number of individuals and entities in our district who make sizable and very meaningful donations to our district. This month is no exception. We have a number of organizations and individuals who have donated money to support our Central Middle School trip to Costa Rica, the Week Without Walls. The White Bear Lake Lions Club has provided dictionaries to every single child in 3rd grade in our district. We have entities which have provided coats, hats, gloves, mittens. It's that time of year, folks. A number of entities have provided various supplies for our school districts. We have a couple who gave $1,000 to support the band program in South Campus. So we are very, very grateful for these donations as always. Seeing that, is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
I think Mr. Mullen had it by a nose, and Mr. Wilson will have you second it. This calls for a roll call vote.
Fahey, aye. Kimball?
Aye.
Mullen?
Aye.
Newberg?
Aye.
Newmaster? Wilson?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. Now is the time for public forum. That's an opportunity for members of the public to address the school board on any items or issues of concern to them. We do ask people who want to address the board to fill out a card. They're located on the table against the wall to your right, and to bring that card up to us before the meeting. I don't see any card up here now. Is there any member of the public who would like to address the board this evening? All right, seeing none, we will turn to our next item, and that is item C1, Community Forum on Senior Award from MCEA. Dr. Kazmarchek, would you
Right.
like to introduce this?
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Mr. Mauer up front, who's got several people. And he will take the lead on this agenda item. Welcome, Mr. Mauer.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kazmierczak, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thanks for the time tonight. It's really great to be able to take time to honor some work that was done, but especially when the work is much bigger than any one person. The Community Forum on Seniors was a collective effort between my predecessor, Christine Weirkamp, and the Advisory Council for Community Services and Rec in 2015, who started this work with the elected officials and other community leaders around that really felt the need to support our seniors in the community. So for us to come in after that work had started and to carry on that work, it's really an honor for us to be able to be up here to accept this award on their behalf and behalf of the community. So in 2015, the group was formed, the Community Forum on Seniors, and with the collective effort of supporting our seniors, and they began with some listening sessions to find out what was important to the seniors and what they wanted from the group and how we could help them and service them, and it led into a phone survey to the community with results coming back about what the community felt we could do to support them as a whole. And then those results were reported back in February of 2016, and in April of 2016, 5 subgroups from our original committee were made in the areas of housing, health and wellness, recreation, services, and transportation. Since then, the group continues to work out in the community and doing their part. The wonderful thing is just not one group's responsibility, it's a responsibility of a village. Like the saying says, it takes a village. So we were awarded the project award from MCEA, and our Region 6 rep from the Minnesota Community Ed Association, Bret Carlson, who is a White Bear District resident, as well as the Community Ed Director in North Branch, is here to present us with this award.
Welcome, Mr. Carlson.
And a proud graduate, 1996, go Bears.
You haven't forgotten, good for you.
It's my great pleasure to be here tonight and present the Region 6 MCEA Association 2017 Project Award to the White Bear Lake Area Community Forum on Seniors. There are 4 criteria for the MCEA Project Award, and they are cooperation and teamwork among people, agencies, institutions, and organizations, use of resources, including people, facilities, and funding, achievement that illustrates the principles of community education, and the 4th is community impact. Without question, the work of the Community Forum on Seniors has done to support area of seniors is exactly what this award is all about. Your team took the lead on bringing people and resources together to make an impact on the entire community. As you are aware, by the year 2020, there will be more seniors in Minnesota than school-aged children, and we, as educators, have an obligation to meet the needs of all of our citizens, and this team, through their work on the Community Forum, did just that. As Tim said, I'm an alum, a district resident who also has aging parents living in the community, and a community educator who is soon going to replicate this project in the community that I serve. I could not be more proud to present the 2017 MCEA Project Award to White Bear Lake Community Services and Recreation Department. Congratulations all. Here's a nice plaque they get. It's kind of like the Stanley Cup. They each get it for a day, so congratulations, everyone.
Tim asked me just to say a couple of follow-up words, and I just want to thank everybody who was involved with the community forum and that continues to be involved. We have all of the work that the action team started have found homes and have continued to be actual projects on the ground working in your community. We have a new tracks loop starting in the south end of White Bear every Thursday. It is a bus line that is running through community residential facilities, housing facilities, into retail areas and different senior facilities and things that are going on. So that's a real thing that's going on right now. We have the second half at Redeemer, their faith community nurse, which is a direct reaction to the health community. We have a new guide coming out in 2018 for home services and community engagement the year after that in response to our service action community. The housing community led to the Housing Awareness Day and the Housing Guide. We're on our second year of those activities. We also have a service group, or a senior providers group that meets quarterly under the guidance of CLASS, the Consortium of Lake Area Senior Services, so that all of the folks who are working to make senior lives and for their families easier are talking together, working together. And we also, I know that there's one I'm forgetting, recreation. I have to say that our recreation group continues to meet. I know that our theater program, our arts programs, our pickleball, the walkable communities, all of that is happening now in consideration of our senior community members as well. And I just want to say that it seems as if there's interest in getting the band back together. So I expect us to have another community meeting this spring to let all of the community know and to re-engage them in some of these ongoing activities. I have a personal one to invite you all to. The Creating Dementia-Friendly Initiative, Creating Dementia-Friendly Communities Initiative through CLASS is something that is big and going on in our school district in conjunction with Matamidi in North St. Paul, Oakdale, Maplewood. So there will be some ongoing trainings and community conversations around that. It will echo the process that we went through with the Community Forum on Seniors, so I'm sure I'll see you all there. And I just want to thank everybody for supporting this kind of work, and I look forward to seeing it in other population areas that need their light shined on them as well. So I hope that we can continue to work as a community for all of our community members. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I've been so impressed on the work that Community Services and Recreation and the Senior Center have done for the senior community in the greater White Bear Lake area, and I look forward in not that long to being able to receive some of the services that you offer as well. So thank you again, and thank you, Mr. Carlson, for making this important award tonight. All right, we'll turn to our next agenda item, C2, and that is the Superintendent's Report. Take it away, Dr. Kazmarchek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, very importantly, thank you, community members. Last week, the operating levy renewal question passed overwhelmingly by an 80% to 20% margin. This reflects an unprecedented level of support by our community. Additionally, the 4 community members who won open school board seats are Don Mullen, Jessica Ellison, Kim Chapman, and Deborah Beloyd. Congratulations to our incumbents, Don and Kim, and also to our newcomers, Jessica and Deborah. We are appreciative for the ongoing support and collaboration with our community. The student recognition was held tonight. Before this meeting, we recognize students with state-level accomplishments, including all-state soccer players, our girls cross-country team that advanced to the state meet, as well as our boys cross-country team, which advanced to the state meet, our middle school cheerleading team, our junior varsity cheerleading team, and our varsity cheerleading team. Congratulations, students. We had a packed house that was capped off with our school song, so thank you to our varsity cheerleaders for leading us in that. So this past weekend, I was fortunate enough to see the White Bear Lake Area High School fall musical, Footloose. And there were some familiar faces in the audience as well. Some board members attended that particular event. So the show was so popular, in fact, that it sold out even before opening night. So the cast and crew decided to add another performance that will take place at 2 p.m. on Saturday, November 18th. The show will be free to seniors, so tickets are available for purchase, or seniors may go online and get those tickets for free on the district's website at www.isd624.org. So thank you to our cast and crew for adding this additional show. The demand is quite high for this great production. So November recognitions include November 13th through 17th, American Education Week. On November 15th, Education Support Professionals Day. November 16th, National Parental Involvement Day. November 22nd through 24th is our Thanksgiving break, with November 23rd being Thanksgiving. Do I have that right? Is that the right date? 23rd? Yes, it is. Sorry about that. Parent-teacher conferences next week. So students will not be in school, but our buildings will be very busy with parent-teacher conferences happening Monday, November 20th, and Tuesday, November 21st. Preschool and elementary families are invited to sign up for a time to meet with their child's teacher, and secondary families are welcome to attend during general middle school and high school conference times. So with fall quickly turning into winter, it is important to remember the emergency school closing information in case there is a need for it. If winter weather is so severe that schools need to close, parents will also be alerted in 3 ways as soon as a decision is made. So a school messenger, a phone message, and email will be sent to all parents. A message will be posted on the homepage of the school district, again, www.isd624.org. And messages will be posted on the district's Facebook and Twitter pages. In addition, we work with local media outlets to post that information as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ashley for our student report.
Thank you, Dr. Kosmachek. To start off the student report tonight, I'd like to highlight 2 of our very own high school seniors on signing Division I athletic contracts. Claudia Verkirky signed to play hockey at Bemidji State University, and Jordan Farron signed to play basketball at South Dakota State University. We wish these 2 student athletes the best of luck as they continue their academic and athletic careers at their respective schools. Footloose the Musical played this past weekend at the North Campus Auditorium. The show was wonderful and truly showcased some of the incredible talents of our student body. And don't worry, if you missed it this weekend, they added another show this Saturday at 2 o'clock because of the fantastic turnout thus far. This is a show that you do not want to miss. Tickets are still available online, but they are going fast. Student Council held their annual food drive during the first week in November, and it was one of the best turnouts we've ever had. We are so proud to see our schools come together in support of our local food shelf, feeding families in need. We haven't gotten the official numbers back yet, but we're pretty safe to say that we've surpassed our goal of 16,000 pounds. We had 3 fall sports teams who competed at the state level this year. The mountain biking team finished 8th in state. The girls cross country team finished 11th. The boys cross country team finished 4th. We commend these teams for successful seasons representing White Bear Lake. Winter sports are just beginning, so don't forget to check out our athletes in action as they compete this season. Go Bears.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Dr. Kosmachek. We'll turn to our first discussion item, D1, and that's presentation on the 2016-17 audit report. Tom Wazorek, our Director of Finance, if you'd come forward, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair, School Board, and Dr. Kosmachek. It's my pleasure to introduce Jim Eichten, CPA and Principal with Malloy, Montague, Karnowski, and Radosevich as our auditing firm tonight to present the results. Jim?
Welcome again, Mr. Eichten.
Thank you.
Good to have you back.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the School Board, Superintendent, my name is Jim Eichten. As I referenced, I'm here this evening to provide a presentation on the audit report for the year ended December 30, or excuse me, this is June 30th, 2017. I'm going to provide some brief summary of the audit results and provide also some financial information. To start off my comments, I wanted to first recognize the efforts of the district this year. This audit for the year ended June 30th took place in a time of transition. We started the audit with one individual putting together a lot of the books and records, Mary Vasky in this case, and there were multiple layers of transition in the business office throughout the process, culminating with this presentation. Typically, when audit firms like myself get involved in such a transition, you tend to see delays in the process. Certainly that did not happen. I've been presenting the audit report for White Bear Lake for many years at this meeting, and to actually achieve presenting tonight at this time really is credit to many of the individuals in the business office, including the superintendent, in that really dealing with that transition. So certainly commend them for their efforts in that area. I want to first of all then provide an information on the role of the auditor. It is my role this evening to provide information on the opinions that were provided as part of the audit process. It is a requirement in state statute that the district prepare an annual financial statements. I believe you received a copy this evening. That financial statement is then audited by an independent certified public accountant, which is my role in this process. We also issue opinions on any other required elements of the audit. Probably most importantly, we issue an opinion on your federal awards called the single audit, and then your compliance with state laws and regulations that are guided by the Office of the State Auditor. So we also issue a management report. In that management report, we summarize the audit results such that if I weren't here to provide the information, you could read it and find out on your own how the audit went. The audit went very well this year, as I mentioned previously. We were able to issue a unmodified opinion, a clean opinion on the financial statements, which was the opinion you were looking for going into the audit. That opinion also provided an emphasis of a matter. We were required this year to implement Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statements 74 and 75 on pensions. On OPEB. Pensions happened a few years back on OPEB. That other post-employment benefit implementation really didn't change the finances of the district from a fund-based level, but did have some significant impact on the financial report, as you're now reporting your OPEB obligations on a full basis, really reporting the full liability you have comparative to the past when you were only reporting the funding of it periodically. So moving on then, we also issue opinion on your internal controls of financial reporting, which we did not report any findings. I mentioned briefly that we do issue opinions on your single audit of federal awards, in which this year we did report 2 findings of note. The single audit of federal awards typically goes through a process where we audit programs on a rotating basis. This year we audited the Title I program for the first time in the last 3 years, which is pretty typical for the single audit. Given that is the case, we typically see a few more findings in the Title I area, as it's probably one of the larger programs that we audit, but probably one that has the most detailed testing as well. We did issue 2. One relates to notifications that's required to be provided to private schools in the area, really notifying them that they have access to Title I funding through the district. We noted that we weren't able to locate, or the district wasn't able to locate some of that communication that went out. There's quite a bit of evidence that it did go out, and we can see in some cases that it did. So the assumption is that the information that they were notified, but the district didn't have the record keeping in place to prove that occurred. The second area of finding relates to an individual throughout our testing that was provided service that did not reside within the boundaries of the Title I service school. In this case, it was a student that resided at one of the private schools and was being provided service, but was not living within the boundaries of that school. That is a challenging area, given you're providing service to a school that's not really even your own, and then to monitor that and make sure they're providing the right service to the right students can be a challenge. But it is a requirement that you do that, and really comes back to providing the right communication and training to those schools. Yes, Scott?
Just a point of clarification on the boundaries. I mean, the private institutions have no boundaries. They can take students that from wherever that are, willing to enroll. So what you're saying is they must be to receive Title I servicing within the boundaries of the White Bear District.
The White Bear Lakes District,
Okay.
yes. Yep. You have a question, yes?
But as you were going through this, but what about open enrollment? I mean, does that mean that if someone needs Title I services, but they're open enrolled from another district, they can't be provided?
It would have to be an open enrolled into one of the Title I serviced schools, which is the Title I service schools. You're not providing service to every school within your district, only those that are being provided service based on the federal calculation. So yeah, if they were to open enroll in one of those service schools, yeah, they would be able to provide them service. Good question. Those were the two single audit findings that we noted. Then secondarily, or the last item I wanted to point out, we did have a finding in the legal compliance area. Remember, we test state laws that are guided by the Office of State Auditor. We don't have to test every law, only those that are on the list. And in our audit, we did note one contract that was completed during the year where the district did not receive a withholding certificate, on that contract. So what that means, the requirement in law is that anytime you enter into a contract, typically in this case it's a construction contract, you're required to actually verify that those contractors are paying their own taxes, their own withholdings. And there's a form, a certificate that you're required to get before you make final payment to those vendors. And as part of that process, we noted one vendor that you did not receive the certificate. Now, it was followed up after the fact and received later, certainly you've received the certificate at this point. So there's no compliance there, but mostly a legal compliance area finding. So I'm going to move on. Every audit has two areas of note. One of the areas is how you're doing from the compliance perspective, and I noted some of the findings already. The second part of the audit is how you're doing financially. In my management report, we go through several graphical presentations showing the financials of the district. We provide, first of all, in the management report, discussion about fund balance. So fund balance as a percentage of expenditures is a typical ratio that's used by school districts, including the White Bear Lake School District, to provide some perspective on the amount of fund balance you have. You can see fund balances statewide have kind of gone up and down. They're leveling off at about a 20% level statewide. The district did have a decline in its fund balance. I'll get to that a little bit in 2017, but most of that is all planned. The district's fund balances, as you can see here, all very much are consistent with the planned spend down of fund balance that's in your budget. In our report, we also provide some information on spending, both from a spending but also revenues on a comparable basis. This particular graph shows revenues received by the district per student served compared to the statewide basis. Traditionally, or at least the last few years, the district receives slightly below the levels that other metropolitan area districts are receiving on a per student basis. So in 2016, you see that the district received $12,140 in its general fund per student when the statewide average was about $12,500. So you're about at $400 revenue per student less than the comparable district. What you'll typically see is that when that's the case, you're spending less because you're getting less, and I'll show you that in a second. In 2017, the district did receive additional revenues on a per student basis, mostly due to the general education state aid formula increasing, but also the special education state aid amounts received were higher than the previous year. I noted this already, but I'll point it out again. In 2016, this is a graph showing expenditures on a per student basis. The district spends about $11,800 per student in its general fund when you exclude the capital items, when a comparable district is spending about $11,900. So it's about $100 less per student, but again, that correlates right back to the revenue, and you would hope to actually see that happening. This particular graph shows the general fund financial position. I apologize, I noticed the legend isn't there. The blue graph, or the blue data, is the fund balance at the end of the year, and the yellow graph is the cash balance at the end of the year. The general fund financial position in 2017 was budgeted to decline roughly 1.7 million. It finished the year at about $2.5 million decline. This particular presentation shows the unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures that the district uses to guide its fund balance. If you remember, as a board, you have a fund balance policy that states you'll maintain a minimum fund balance of between 12.5 and 16.7%. That fund balance policy is, the comparable number is up there at 11.5. So you're actually slightly below the range. That's not a concern to me, but it is something that certainly the superintendent and the staff will be working with the members of the board to guide future discussions about that, how you will be making changes or making provisions to get back in compliance with your fund balance policy. One area of note is you'll see you have assigned balances listed, and a number of those assigned balances are for useful, more important things that can be used in the future to balance the fund balance unassigned amounts of the district. Probably one of the more exciting graphs I've seen in my management report actually lists the students served, the changes in the students served in the district. And after years of being here showing negative declines, change in pupils, you're seeing a very positive trend upward. That's exciting for the district for sure, and certainly can assist in a variety of ways with the financial aspects of the district. So that one I wanted to put in there. I might not have put it in there if it wasn't so exciting, but that's great. I do have some other graphs on general fund revenues and general fund expenditures. I put these in here really to make sure that the board is aware that of the results of the general fund. We're actually very, very close to expectations. I believe the revenues and expenditures net were about $750,000 lower than what you expected, which is I wrote it down, 0.7% of the operations of the district, which is very close to the projections. Anything less than 1% is considered very good. Lastly, I wanted to point out you do have other funds within your governmental area. You have a food service fund and a community service fund, as you can see by this presentation, that are doing well. Both had increases in fund balances. We also have a number of other funds at the district, including the Severance Obligations Internal Service Fund and 2 self-insured internal service funds to cover both health and dental benefits. And lastly, you have an OPEB trust that is handling the fiduciary activities for your OPEB obligations. Probably the one that stands out to me if you look at the report is the Self-Insured Health Benefits Internal Service Fund. That one in particular had a number of additional claims this year that are causing some drag on that particular fund. I think the end of the year at about a $900,000 deficit. Again, probably not a concern to me in terms of viability or concern long term, but it is something to be aware of. Typically, you see that in an internal service fund. Depending on a claims year, it can go up and down. So, something to be aware of as a board that fund does have some negative, does have a negative fund balance. So, in summary, we issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. We did implement GASB 74 and 75 for OPEB. If you remember right, the district does submit its financial statement to the GFOA and ASBO for achievement in financial reporting. You'll see that the report's about 125 pages long as a result and really provides great information on financial reporting. We had the 3 findings reported. Probably a note on that regard is probably not the importance of the findings, but because an audit really is a learning experience, but are those findings being corrected? And certainly the past history, not only last year to this year, but in the past, the district takes very good care of eliminating those findings going forward and correcting those through changes in internal controls, and the superintendent and Tim Wold and Tom met with me to talk about ways to eliminate those going forward. And then lastly, the district is certainly seeing a stable overall financial position, and I highlighted some of the things that stood out to me financially. So everything is well, certainly in that regard. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you have for me.
Well, thank you, Mr. Eichten. I have one question regarding your finding regarding the district's obligation to notify private schools in our area regarding Title I funding. You may not know the answer to this, but are there any private schools in our district that would be eligible for Title I funding?
That might be an question for
Yes, it's based on the students who are attending. So a private school might have just a handful of students that qualify. So we notify all private schools of the availability based on the specific makeup of the student body.
Thank you. And you say that you assume that the notice did go out, it's just that we were not able to locate evidence of that. So there was no evidence of any prejudice to any of our private schools that did not receive notification in time. All right.
I can address that too. Well, maybe I should allow you, but in terms of working with our schools, all the private schools that reside within our boundaries are all worked with. So on an ongoing basis, we communicate with them. I think this was a case where we just weren't able to produce that notice that actually went out to them. Yep.
Other questions for Mr. Eichten? Mr. Kimball first, then Mr. Chapman.
Well, mine, Chair Newberg kind of asked, but I was just going to follow up. It's a little confusing. The student it's individual students who would qualify for the Title I, and the finding of not living in the school's district area, is that what it is? So if they lived in the attendance area of the Title I school in White Bear, but they go to a private school, that makes them qualified? Is that correct?
Yes.
And the record should
Yes.
reflect that that's yes.
Yes, he looked like he was going to say something, but yeah, that
So
is.
then we found that one student who was receiving Title I
Right.
at the private school didn't live within one of our school's boundaries
Correct.
areas.
Yeah.
So that suggests that that school was aware of Title I if they were.
I see where you're going with that.
Is that, I mean, or am I wrong with
There
that?
were schools that were like private schools that were providing service in the Title I area. So that also tells you that they probably got notified, or maybe that even that they were doing it in the past, because they're pretty consistent from year to year. But
And then, so I think I lost that one. I had another follow-up with that, but, if this is the first time in 3 years that the Title I specifically, or all of our federal programs were audited?
yeah, good question. So anytime the district receives more than $750,000 of federal revenue, you're required to have a single audit of federal awards. So you're required every year. You're getting way more than $750,000 of federal revenue. So within the single audit requirements, the federal government provides us guidelines on what programs to audit. Okay, so there's a flow chart that we use. And you're required every 3 years to audit what's called a major program. So Title I would be considered a major program. And we would audit it every 3 years for sure. So there's other reasons that we would audit Title I as well. One of the reasons we would do that is if you had a finding in the prior year. So we're actually going to get to next year and audit it again because of the findings we had in the past. If you had no findings, we probably wouldn't audit it for 2 more years. Other programs within the single audit area that we audit that are considered major programs include the food service program as well as special education. So this year we didn't audit those programs because they either didn't have findings or they had been audited the 2 years prior, one of the 2 years prior.
So we like to think that there wouldn't have been any findings last year or the year before, but it's possible there could have been, but the
Possible.
fact was that it wasn't audited.
Wasn't on.
Can I ask a question about the fund balance too, or are we just?
Can I add one more thing on
course,
the,
Dr.
on the,
Kazmierczak.
on the students? I just want to note, so the student was actually, it does not reside in the school district. That student resides in a neighboring school district and does not live within the boundaries of a Title I school in a different school district. So it's even more complicated than the student living in, the student isn't a district resident. It's a student who lives outside of the district and doesn't happen to live in a Title I service area in a neighboring school district. And that student was provided services.
So we were bound to monitor that as well.
Yeah.
Chapman first, then Mr. Wilson.
Back on the finding relative to this withholding affidavit, how large was this contract? Was it a little dinky thing, or was this a pretty sizable thing? And what area was it in? Was it a construction project, or?
I'm going to defer to.
Yeah, it was Birch Lake roofing project, which was, I don't know, in the neighborhood of $500,000. So the final payment was made before we had that particular document, but then it was verified that they had filed, but yeah.
And is this a finding, or excuse me, is this something that you look for pretty much every year, or is this one that just popped up on the audit list this year?
Great question. No, that particular question of statutes that we test has been in the checklist for at least, 25 years for sure.
So it's an ongoing
It's been
annual?
tested, yeah.
Okay.
If we didn't issue a finding last year, we didn't find any evidence that it was a problem, so.
Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, when Mr. Kimball was going over his boundary question, something else jumped up. So there are individual boundaries for the Title I schools, as well as district boundaries?
Correct.
Okay, so what happens with a student that is assessed to require Title I servicing? They would just go to the nearest Title I servicing school, would they not?
I believe the Title I program actually, you determine what schools get service first. So if they're residing within that school, then they're evaluated
Okay.
for.
So for the sake of argument, let's say Birch Lake is a Title I school, I'm pretty sure it is, but for the sake of argument, let's say Birch Lake is, Lake Ayres is not. We have a student that's residing within the Lake Ayres boundary.
Area, yeah.
They get assessed for Title I servicing. Would they not go to the nearest Title I school then?
It depends.
I mean, you can't deny the servicing just because they're outside of a school boundary there.
I'm not for sure. I can follow up on this question later, but.
They would remain at Lake Ayres and would receive intervention services through another funding
Bucket of
source.
money.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
If it
So
was
Title
like-
I services, our title schools are Lake Ayres, Birch, Willow, and Vadnais. So if a student, if we stick with your scenario, the student, assume Lake Ayres wasn't
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
a title school in your example, they would still receive the services they need, but they would do so at Lake Ayres. They would just not be funded with Title I funds.
The services won't be denied.
Right.
Just because of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll just be a different funding source.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Eichten? Yeah, Mr. Kimball.
Yeah, just, I guess it's more for the administration, Dr. Kazmierczak. So it is, a little bit of a deal. I think it seemed, we're not making, or you didn't make a big deal out of our policy of the fund balance dropping below 12, but we've always kind of prided ourselves in not having that happen. So it sounds like, is it correct that the fact that we had sort of planned to use 1.7 million of the fund balance, but in the end it ended up being 2.9 or something? 2.5. I mean, that's enough to make it go from 12 something to 11.
Yeah.
And it, it's half a percentage, but I'm just wondering if later or somehow we can get more of a detail on, why we'd made that decision to do that and was it unavoidable? Was it something that we needed to have? And maybe we don't care that much about it, but it's just kind of like when you start fooling with it, then it's dangerous.
Yeah, I can address that. So the primary area where we were over our budget was in instructional support services, I believe is a category, and primarily with transportation. So our transportation costs exceeded what we had budgeted. And in particular, our special education transportation costs were higher than what we had budgeted. So that 11.5%, while it is below our 12.5%, we'll be able to return back to that 12.5 because we have assigned fund balances. And if you look at this big document, and I apologize if those of you in the crowd who don't have this big document, but if you look at page 76, this is a management tool that we use. I'll give you a second to find that. So when we think every year we plan on where we would assign various amounts for different things that we anticipate coming up. So if you look at assign for subsequent years budget, for example, $5 million, that's in place to handle any deficit that we might foresee in the coming years. So that would be an area where we could actually trim that, for example, down to $4 million, and then that $1 million would no longer be assigned. It would go into the unassigned amount, which would then bring us back into compliance. So this is a management tool that we use. So when we present a revised budget to you, either later this month, actually we might have that ready, or it would be in January at the work study meeting. We will present a budget that would bring us back to where our policy says we should be. So this is how we would accomplish that. We would look at our assigned amounts and make adjustments, and we'd be back into compliance.
That sounds very. We couldn't have done that within the year to not have that happen, or.
Yeah, we could have. Yeah, we could have, and we will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we'll demonstrate that, and it would be we make decisions about where these assignments are made annually, and yes, we could have made an adjustment that would have kept us in that range.
But it's just on paper, so I understand. Yeah.
Well, I'll follow up, if I could, before moving on.
Please,
follow
Mr.
up
Eichten.
comment on the superintendent's comments there. He pointed out that special education transportation, as well as almost regular transportation, is the main category that was exceeding budget. This is probably the 10th, I don't even know how many presentations I've given like this or read, but almost every report I've read has that exact category over budget. So I think it does provide appropriate context that the White Bear Lake District is not the only district experiencing those increasing costs. So it's something you'll want to manage. And it is very typical for a board like this to follow up an audit report with a adjustment to the budget for the following year, and it typically comes out shortly thereafter. And I would anticipate what Superintendent stated is exactly that. You'll see an adjustment to get back into alignment with the fund balance.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in the end, the only thing that was violated or unmet, choose your words there, was one of our own policies, correct? We didn't violate any regulation. We didn't, violate any law. So, and I understand that within accounting practices, there's, a recommended minimum figure, but isn't that down around 5%? I mean, we're nowhere near that.
Yeah, 5 to 8% is what you would see. That is great. It is a great point. One of the fund balance policy is your own policy. There's no outside guidance here provided by any outside agency for sure. Frankly, the fund balance policy point is to alert the board to maybe there's some action that needs to be taken. Mm-hmm. So it's actually working properly. You have a policy that gives you guidance that says, hey, we're not meeting our policy. Let's address it. Let's look at it closer.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we have the ability to address it without number one, either seeking additional revenues or going through a reduction cycle. We're actually able to come back into compliance with our policy through funds that we already have.
Right, any other questions for Mr. Eichten? Right, that ends our discussion items. I'm going to ask Mr. Eichten to stay where he is because our next item on the agenda is an action item, E1, and that is action on the fiscal year 2017 audit report. I don't know that we need Mr. Eichten to say anything more. We do have a recommendation that we accept the audit report, which we just reviewed for fiscal year 2017 as presented by Mr. Eichten from MMKR, our independent auditor. Is there a motion to accept the audit report?
So moved.
That's a motion by Mr. Chapman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, well, I'll give it to Mr. Wilson. Any additional questions for either Mr. Wazorak, Mr. Eichten, or Dr. Kazmierczak? All right, this is a financial item, so this calls for a roll call vote.
Fahey, aye. Kimball?
Aye.
Mullen?
Aye.
Newberg?
Aye.
Newmaster? Wilson?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Right, the audit report is accepted. Thank you so much, Mr. Eichten. We'll turn to our next action item, E2, and that's a resolution to canvass return of votes of school district general and special election on November 7th, 2017. Dr. Kazmierczak?
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So this, you have a resolution in your board packet. This resolution has been provided by Tom Deans of Knudsen Flynn Deans law firm. That's the firm we work with regarding elections. So the resolution is there, and this is what we use to canvass the school district special election. The election results were provided by Ramsey County's election official, and we got the final numbers today. So with that, I don't know to what extent you want to read through this.
I will ask the
but-
clerk, considering this is election-related, I will ask her to read into the record the resolution we will be acting on. Madam Clerk?
Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 624, State of Minnesota as follows. 1, it is hereby found, determined, and declared that the general election of the voters of this school district held on November 7th, 2017 was in all respects duly and legally called and held. 2, as specified in the attached abstract and return of votes cast, a total of blank voters of the district voted at said general election on the election of 4 school board members for 4-year term vacancies on the board caused by expiration of term on the first Monday in January next following the general election as follows: Deborah Beloyd, 2,994; Kim Chapman, 3,774; Jessica Ellison, 3,803; Jill Ingwer, 2,152; Don Mullen, 4,177; Angela Thompson, 2,466. 3, Don Mullen, Kim Chapman, Jessica Ellison, and Deborah Beloyd, having received the highest number of votes, are elected to 4-year terms beginning on the first Monday in January 2018. 4, it is hereby found, determined, and declared that the special election of the voters of this school district held in conjunction with the school district general election on November 7th, 2017 was in all respects duly and legally called and held. 5, as specified in the attached abstract and return of votes cast at said election, a total of 7,876 voters of the school district voted on the question of renewing the referendum revenue authorization of the school district for taxes payable in 2019 and thereafter. School district question number 1, of which 5,574 voted in favor and 1,392 voted against the same. Said proposition, having received the approval of at least a majority of such votes, is hereby declared to have carried. 6, the clerk is hereby directed to certify the results of the election to the county auditors of each county in which the school district is located, in whole or in part. The clerk is also directed to report the results of the referendum revenue authorization election to the Commissioner of Education within 15 days of the date hereof.
All right, we have a resolution as read into the record by the clerk. Is there a motion in support of that resolution? A motion by Ms. Newmaster. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Kimball. We'll call for a roll call vote.
Fahey, aye. Kimball?
Aye.
Mullen?
Aye.
Newberg?
Aye.
Newmaster?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Right, congratulations to all of those, either re-elected or elected. Right, we'll turn to our next action item, E2 or E3, and that is a resolution authorizing issuance of certificates of election. Dr. Kazmierczak.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So the resolution again has been provided by Tom Deans, our elections attorney, to issue certificates of election and to allow the district to perform other election-related duties for the school district general election.
All right, and I will, since this is election-related, I will ask the clerk to read this resolution into the record after drinking some
Have
water.
some water. Thank you. Whereas the board has canvassed the general election for school board members held on November 7th, 2017, now therefore be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 624, State of Minnesota, as follows. 1, the chair and clerk are hereby authorized to execute certificates of election on behalf of the School Board of Independent School District Number 624 to the following candidates: Don Mullen, Kim Chapman, Jessica Ellison, Deborah Beloyd, who have received a sufficiently large number of votes to be elected to fill vacancies on the board caused by expiration of term on the first Monday in January next following the election, based on the results of the canvass. 2, the certificate of election shall be in substantially the form attached hereto. 3, after the time for contesting the election has passed and the candidate has filed all campaign financial reports required by Minnesota statutes, Chapter 211A, the clerk of the school board is hereby directed to deliver a certificate to each person entitled thereto personally or be certified mail. 4, the clerk is hereby directed to enclose with the certificate a form of acceptance of office and oath of office in substantially the form attached hereto.
Well, thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a resolution regarding the issuance of certificates of election. Is there a motion in support of this resolution?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fahey. This calls for a roll call vote.
Fahey, aye. Kimball.
Aye.
Mullen.
Aye.
Newberg.
Aye.
Newmaster.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Chapman.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. We'll turn to our next action item, E4, and that's action on health insurance rates effective January 1, 2018. Dr. Kazmierczak.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'd like to welcome Perry Guilfoyle and Rob Keller here from National Insurance Services. We had a detailed presentation on our on our health insurance rates at our work study meeting just a couple of weeks ago. You had an opportunity there to ask a lot of questions, and there was a detailed presentation. We've invited Perry and Rob back in case there are some follow-up questions, but they don't have a formal presentation this evening. The rates are delineated in the board packet in this agenda item. And so we would ask for your approval of these rates that we had discussed at a previous meeting, and these rates remain unchanged from what you had seen at the previous meeting.
Great. We have a recommendation then that we approve the district's health insurance premium rates effective January 1, 2018 as outlined in our packet. Is there a motion to approve?
I move.
Motion by Mr. Kimball. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Chapman. As Dr. Kazmierczak said, I know there was extensive opportunity at our work study meeting to discuss this. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Wilson.
Just a comment. I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for the clarity and the depth of the responses that you gave to our discussion questions. It really put things in good order.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
Dr.
want to make a comment as well. So we have, again, just for those in the audience or those in the public, we have a self-insurance fund. We have a committee that's made up primarily of employees. So those who are impacted by a rate increase are actually consider a rate increase prior to it coming to the school board. So we have broad involvement of all of our employee groups, and those different groups and those different individuals are actually outlined in the agenda this evening, just to again give more context that this is very much a collaborative process as of about 3 years ago when we went to this model, and it seems to be working well. I know, as we heard earlier from our auditor, we want to make sure we shore up that self-insured fund balance, and that will happen over time. But this is a decision that, again, it comes to the school board for final approval, but it has been vetted by a very, very active and involved insurance advisory committee made up of our employees.
Thank you, Dr. Kazmierczak. Any additional questions or comments? Right. This calls for a roll call vote.
Fahey, aye. Kimball.
Aye.
Mullen.
Aye.
Newberg.
Aye.
Newmaster.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Chapman.
Aye.
Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Right, we'll turn to our next action item, E5, and that is secondary course proposals. Ms. Paul, welcome.
All right, Chair Newberg, Dr. Kazmachek, members of the board. We're excited to be at the final stage of our process, bringing course proposals to you for our secondary programs to begin in fall of 18-19. And a couple of things I want to share with you before we move towards any questions that you have. There is a detailed document that outlines each of the course proposals that we reviewed extensively at our last work study meeting. And since then, we've had 2 opportunities to gain additional feedback. Dr. Kazmachek gave the opportunity for us to get some feedback from his student advisory board, as well as having the opportunity to meet with our World's Best Workforce Advisory, in which we gained additional feedback. The 3 areas that we bucketed the feedback around were, first of all, we received feedback that both the students and members of our World's Best Workforce Advisory were glad to see that we've expanded the college credit opportunities. Specifically, feedback was that we've gone beyond the high-level math and science courses, and that 10 of the recommended courses we're bringing to you have college-level offerings, which they really shared a lot of excitement about. Secondly, they appreciated the intentional work that we did to create career pathway opportunities. One of the things that was highlighted in the feedback was the addition of the opportunity for students to get concurrent enrollment credit for the Certified Nursing Assistant course. That's part of our healthcare industry, and they saw that was very aligned with healthcare industry needs. Secondly, the increased benefit to students from realigning our Woods courses to be more of a construction exploration opportunity for students, so that they could really see and explore opportunities across the construction trades. And then finally, there was excitement around the value of inclusion opportunities. One of the courses that we're bringing to you is a great opportunity for both students that are special education and non-special education students to be part of a unified physical education course. So these were some of the highlights, and we'd like to open it up for questions, but first I'd like to bring up Jill Pearson, who is our secondary teaching and learning coordinator. A lot of this great feedback that we're receiving is really due to the diligence and effort that Jill puts into a very extensive process. She not only takes feedback, but then she creates opportunities for us to bring that back to administration, students, teachers, the community members, to make sure that when we bring final course recommendations to you, that they've really brought the best thinking from multiple perspectives. And she's a big reason why there's so much excitement around the work that we've done this year. So Jill's going to join me, and then we're open for questions.
Thank you for all the work you've done, Ms. Pearson, as well. And I know the board had an opportunity to review these proposals and modifications and deletions at our work study meeting. Does anyone else have any additional questions for either Ms. Paul or Ms. Pearson? Yeah, Mr. Mullen.
I apologize, battling a cold. I just want to thank you both for your work on this. This is great stuff, and I appreciate it, and I know that the 2 students I have at home really appreciate it also, so thank you very much.
Right, anything additional? Right, we have a recommendation that we approve the course proposals, modifications, and deletions as presented in our packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mullen. Is there a second? We'll give it to Ms. Newmaster. Second by Ms. Newmaster. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you for your hard work on this.
Chair Newberg, if I could extend one more note of appreciation. Ms. Renstead and Ms. Pratt are 2 students that have been very involved and gave some critical feedback on some of the improvements we've made since our work study. So I'd like to thank them both for their
Well,
feedback.
the hard work of our
Thank
student
you.
liaisons continues. Thank you, Ashley and McKenna. All right. We'll turn to our next action item, always a fun one, E6, and that is action on accepting the Ryan grants. Dr. Kazmierczak.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So, again, as you said, always a fun one to approve. These grants were were made available by the Ryan family, and these are specific to art. These are specifically art grants, and you can see the proposals in the board packet. So our White Bear Lake Area Education Foundation has approved this. The board has already approved these, and now they're waiting final acceptance by the school board. So again, always a highlight to award these grants. And they were actually able to award all the requests that came in. They were actually able to award all those requests.
All right, we have a recommendation that we accept the Ryan Art Grants totaling $4,285 from the White Bear Lake Area Education Foundation. Is there a motion to approve?
Well, as the board liaison to the foundation, I so move.
Is there a second from Mr. Wilson's motion?
Second.
And Ms. Fahey has seconded. Any questions or discussion? Yes, Mr.
Just
Wilson.
a protocol question. Dr. Lovett is listed as the point of contact for this grant.
I would assume this is a carryover from last year's similar motion, which didn't get changed on the board packet, so.
That was my question.
That's,
okay.
yes. Any other questions? All right, this is a financial matter, so we'll take a roll call vote.
Fahey, aye. Kimball?
Aye.
Mullen?
Aye.
Newberg?
Aye.
Newmaster?
Aye.
Wilson?
As the foundation liaison, aye.
Chapman?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, the motion carries. And we'll turn to our last action item, E7, and that is second reading on a number of different policies. As the board knows, we have a process to approve either changes to existing policies or new policies. The policy committee reviews them first, then they come to the board for a first reading, which is an opportunity to ask questions, get clarifications. Once that has happened, the policies return to the board for the second reading, which is our opportunity to approve them. Tonight we have 5 policies here for second reading. We've all seen these before. So I'm going to entertain a motion in one fell swoop to approve Policy 201, Legal Status of the School Board, Policy 203, Operation of the School Board Governing Rules, and the addendum A to that policy, Policy 303, Superintendent Selection, Policy 533, Wellness, and Policy 701, Establishment and Adoption of School District Budget. Is there a motion to approve all 5 of these policies?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Chapman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mullen. Does anyone have any remaining questions about any of these policies? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those policies are approved. And we now turn to the point in our agenda for board forum, which is an opportunity for each of us to share information about upcoming events or anything of interest to each other and the public. Does anyone have anything for board forum tonight? Mr. Wilson.
A note of thanks to Mr. Lyon, Robert Lundberg, who sent out a very powerful message of advocacy for our levy referendum question that was on the recent ballot. He sent that message to the entire membership roster of the White Bear Lake Lions Club, and then he contacted the secretaries of both the Vadnais Heights and the Hugo Lions Club as well, and they followed suit and did likewise. So I'm sure that helped pass our levy referendum, and I'd just like to publicly thank him for his efforts on that behalf.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. Anyone else with something for board forum? Mr. Kimball.
Yep, just acknowledgement of announcement of one of our teachers retiring, who has been with our district 31 years, so thank you for your service. We're thankful for you, and good luck in retirement. We also have in the board packet a number of new staff hires mentioned, so we want to wish all of you that are watching the best of luck in your careers here in the district. Number 3, I just wanted to, he left, but Bret Carlson, who is here to give the award to our community services senior outstanding team, was a former student of mine, and I didn't have the opportunity. I was going to quiz him on the major underlying causes of the Great Depression, because I'm just confident he would still know, but I know he's going to watch this, so I'm expecting him to send me an email with those underlying causes, because he is a White Bear guy still. I want to mention, and maybe you were going to mention, the Lincoln Gala.
Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Kimball.
Lincoln School had just an amazing gala at Manitou Grill on November 4th, and it was well planned and well done, and they raised a ton of money, and just kudos to the whole Lincoln community, and including the two co-directors of that amazing event. One of which whom is my niece. So, way to go. And then we got news today of or not today, but a couple days ago, but we know that Jean Anderson has passed away, great Lake Airs teacher, and we're all saddened by that, and we just wish her family and friends and the Lake Airs community well. Amazing teacher, and we like to think that our loss is going to be those students in heaven's gain.
A wonderful teacher, wonderful woman. Both of my children had her in first grade, and they loved the day when she would bring penguins into the classroom as part of the educational experience. It was a wonderful time. We'll miss her. I have two things.
Go ahead.
Before Ms. Fahey, first of all, the board, we do have an election-related document which we all need to sign. Make sure you sign that before you leave tonight. And second, for anybody out there who is not yet footloose and fancy-free, you have one more opportunity to do that this Saturday at 2 o'clock. There are still tickets available online. Ms. Fahey.
And I have a couple things also. North Campus on October 26th had their first parent camp. There were a number of sessions that parents could go through, and they are going to be having a PTO meeting tomorrow night, trying to resurrect the parent group at North Campus. So if you are available at 6:30, show up at North Campus. They're looking for parents to get involved. Willow, as we found out, was reported last year. Willow received a $328,000 grant from the Sawyer family, a work on the trauma-informed classroom, and working on their positive behavior intervention strategies. Chris Strife has let me know that they handed out 3,500 Positive Pause Awards in first quarter, and their discipline referrals are down by 46% for first quarter. And they're working on nonverbal classroom strategies. 2 teachers are going to be trained and then act as coaches. And they have a Culver's night tomorrow night at the new Culver's on White Bear Avenue from 5 to 7:30. So if you're looking for some Culver's, show up and support Willow, please. I believe Lake Airs was having theirs tonight. And then just a reminder to my board members, the AMSD conference on December 8th. It's going to be an update on the Reimagine Minnesota, the important equity work, and there will be a student panel there sharing their perspective on what students need to get an equitable and excellent education. And that is it.
Thank you, Ms. Fahey. Anyone else with something for board forum? Seeing nothing, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
I second that. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.